Oh, we got a busy Friday for you, and right out of the gate, we're going to talk about the Gilbert Goons, but maybe in a way that you haven't heard before. We know that there are 5 arrests. We know some of the names. Some of them we don't because they are minors, but this is a group of kids that have gone around Gilbert and surrounding areas. They've committed murder. Preston Lord is dead from Queen Creek. They have beaten children senseless. And we have the father of someone in Gilbert who was beaten up by the Gilbert Goons, and he joins us here in studio, Rick Kuehner. Rick, your son was, unfortunately beaten up by the Gilbert Goons at an In-N-Out Burger. We thank you for coming in because I know this is going to be a tough conversation for the next 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now, I think we've got to maybe start with August 2023. Your son comes home and he is beaten to a pulp. What happened?
Yeah, it was probably around 10:15. He wanted to meet up with some friends, just go get a burger real quick. I live very close to the In-N-Out there on Market Street. I said, yeah, I guess it's no problem. I said, but, you got 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and you need to get home. And he takes off in his car, and literally 15 minutes later, he calls me just ecstatic, saying, they jumped me, they jumped me, they jumped me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And as he was talking to me, I guess he was able to get in his car and drive back to the house, and I meet him downstairs, and just blood everywhere. His whole mouth was covered in blood, his shirt. He had no shoes on. I guess they stole his shoes at the same time. And he said, yeah, there was, I said, what happened? And it was hard for him to talk because his mouth was so messed up. But he said he parked his car right where he usually parks it, was going to meet his friend there, and a white pickup truck with about 10 kids in the back pulled up to him and just started attacking him.
Oh, God.
Were these random? Because, you and I were chatting a little bit earlier, and is it a random thing, or are they just picking people out that they know from school or somewhere and saying, all right, these are the ones we're going after?
Yeah, it's kind of complex. So in the case of my son, I believe he was getting threats before the attack. So from somebody,
really,
yeah. So somebody he went to from the school he just went to. So if you want me to back up, I can kind of walk you through how that happened.
Yeah, because I think it's interesting.
Yeah. So my son has been attacked before. So
this wasn't the first time in 2023.
This was the first time in 2023, but previous. The school he attended to, he got attacked twice. I don't know if there's a connection or not,
okay.
But I decided to pull him out of that school and start fresh at a new school, which was very close to there. And he didn't know anyone at that school, so he's starting his junior year. And I think they started at the end of July of 2023. Literally within a week, he was getting Snapchat threats.
Yep.
From random guys. We don't know who they are. We know they attended the same school as him, but we didn't know who they were. I literally went to the vice principal who oversees the juniors, and the SRO, the school resource officer from Gilbert. He's a Gilbert officer, although that's Chandler. It's weird because the school's in Gilbert, but it's under Chandler Unified School District.
Okay.
And I presented all the threatening I screenshotted all the threats, gave them the names. I knew the names of the kids
that threatened your son.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And I said, I don't know why this is going on. And I told them specifically, I said, it's not a matter of if this happens, it's just a matter of when. Can you, because I knew the school couldn't give me the parents' numbers, but I said, can you give them my number? Let's sit in a room together with the school resource officer and find out why do these kids hate my kid? What's going on?
And I want you to continue with that. I just want to let everybody know we're talking to Rick Kuehner. His son was beaten up by the Gilbert Goons at an In-N-Out in August of 2023, and right now he's going through some of the threats that he received before this specific beating in August of 2023, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so you asked, you said, listen, let's all sit in a room. Let's try and figure this out. What happened then?
Yeah, so the vice principal said that he would do that.
Okay.
I didn't hear anything back. I don't know if he did it. So I was getting a little frustrated because the threats still kept coming.
Okay.
Even after that.
Did you decide to go to the police?
Well, I did because the Gilbert police officer was there. So that I gave them that information. So
at this point, the Gilbert police had the
Yes.
evidence that your child was being threatened.
Yes.
What did they do with the evidence?
I have no idea.
Did they?
It went in an email, and they documented because I watched them. I sent it to them to make sure because I wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing and contacting whoever I could.
But you don't know if they went and spoke to those kids or those kids' parents?
I don't.
So as far as you're concerned, they didn't do anything that you know of?
If I had to assess that, then yes. I don't think they did anything. Unless they're under oath and said that they did. So at that point, I was frustrated that I didn't hear anything back. So I reached out to the superintendent of Chandler School District.
Okay.
He was on vacation. They gave me some other guy that was covering for him. He said, I explained the situation. He said, I'll reach out to, that administrator at the school and find out what's going on. And supposedly, he said, you'll get a call back on such and such date at this time. And I never did.
So you never got a call. You never got any information outside of that. And you're going up the chain of command.
I'm going up
here.
the chain. I'm because I've dealt with this before, with the prior beatings of my son. So I'm like,
Are you thinking
ass.
there's a connection? Like, okay, these guys know somebody at this school? Because it seems just.
How do you
very
ignore
random.
that?
I think there is. I've had so much evidence thrown at me that I just can't believe that they're not all connected somehow. Even though
What does
they
that
don't
mean?
go to the same school.
What do you mean? Who's connected to who?
I think all these kids.
The goons?
Yeah.
Okay.
If that's what you want to call them. Gilbert says, well, the police chief said, I haven't heard about that. I'm like, I've heard about 2 years ago. So I've heard that term. Some other parents have heard it too.
Okay. So who are they connected to, in your opinion?
Well, I think there are a group of kids that are on Snapchat that just organize from different high schools. And they, I've heard the Social Studies Club at Perry High School. I've heard the Truck Gang. I don't know, but they're all connected somehow.
All different kids from a few different places?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you got to understand the schools are very close to each other. So,
Yeah.
they're like a mile away from each other or 2 miles away. So,
Right.
they all went to elementary school together, grew up. So they all know each other somehow. The other thing I found out, too, that really was disturbing is that in the case earlier, when these kids are in trouble or they get expelled from the school, they just drop them off at another school. They don't solve the issue. So that's a problem.
You think there were some bad eggs that were dropped off at your kid's new school?
I think there's as I've been finding out,
Okay.
that a lot of these kids that been these troublemakers have been at different schools because they got kicked out of one.
They're just shuffling them.
But they're shuffling around. They're saying, let's take this problem, get them off my plate, we'll put them there, and then they just become somebody else's problem. So they're not solving anything by doing that.
All right, thanks for joining us on this Friday. We're right in the middle of a conversation with Rick Kuehner. He's joining us in studio. His son was beat up by the Gilbert Goons at an In-N-Out, and I believe it was on
August 18th.
August 18th. Okay, so Rick, a second ago when we broke for a minute, you haven't gotten any help from the school. You got all this evidence from Snapchat. You screenshotted all of this. You got names. You're like, listen, these are the kids who are threatening my kid. And then he came home beaten, beyond belief. Okay, and then the police aren't really helping you. So when did you decide, I've got to send my son out of the United States? Explain that.
I didn't really know what to do. I was trying to reach out to the school to say, hey, do you guys have any suggestions or options? Because obviously I can't put him back in the school. One of the main suspects was actually sat next to him in his English class, so there was no way I could put him back in that school. So I was withdrawn, but I said, maybe you have vocational programs. What are some options? Because I didn't know. I'm a single dad. I work a lot, and I never expected this to fall into my lap. So I'm trying to, I got to protect him. My son's afraid. He's afraid to leave the house. If he goes out anywhere, we're always looking over our back, and you just never know. So I reached out to his mom, and she lives overseas, and she was like, he has to come here because we can at least guarantee his safety. It was a hard decision for me, but I was not getting help from anyone, and the people that we pay our taxes to help us, our local authorities, our school administrators and all, it was crickets. Just crickets.
Well, it's been crickets, and I think a lot of frustration, as you've seen and heard from people. How is that one of the kids that attacks him is sitting next to him? How in God's name do you... Every day you have got to face somebody who, for whatever reason, I mean, again, when I think of gangs, I think of turf wars, I think of stuff like this. This is random. We're deciding we're going to beat you up. And then he's got to sit there next to him.
Yep. Yeah, I talked to some parents the other day, and they pulled their kids out of that school as well because their kids were in the same class as that kid too, and they said, I don't feel safe, so they pulled them out.
How big do you think this is? I mean, how many other parents that are out there are now starting to come out and say, hey, Rick, we got the same story? Because there's safety in numbers, and I think we're starting to hear there's a lot more.
It's a lot. I know there was 4 inactive cases, mine being one, which I cannot figure for the life of me why they closed the case. It makes no sense, and we can talk about that later. But since then, 5 more cases have come open, so there's a total of 9 that we know of. I can tell you for sure there's kids out there that their parents don't know, and they're so humiliated and embarrassed to even say anything. So who knows?
Kids are hiding that they were beaten from their parents.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
Or threatened, or getting the Snapchats and stuff like that.
My son's told me that. He's, or they're afraid because these kids, these goons or whatever, they literally would tell you, if you say something, we will kill you.
Yeah.
And they told my son that.
They mean it.
Yeah, and they carry guns. My son's seen the guns, and and a couple of these kids they've recently arrested out in Pinal County are really bad characters and have records of gun charges and stuff like that too. So
let's go through some of the police stuff. Joining us in studio is Rick Kuehner. His son was beaten up by the Gilbert Goons at an In-N-Out in August of 2023, and Rick made the tough decision. You go live with your mom in Europe. You're going to be safe there. So when you told us in the first segment, it was like 10-on-1, and he was beaten. Did he know any of the kids?
Yes.
Okay, did he know 7 of them? Did he know 1 of them? Did he know 3?
At least 3.
Okay, he knew 3. So he could literally identify 3 kids who beat him.
Yes.
Okay, so when did the police come over that night?
They came there. I called them. They came over. Called the paramedics. They came to check him too because I wasn't sure if I needed to take him to the emergency room or not. I mean,
so when he names the 3 kids, how does Gilbert police not go and arrest them? There's an eyewitness. It's your son. He was beaten. Here are the 3 names. Here are all the Snapchats that have taken. There's videos everywhere.
Yeah, I would love to ask the police chief that.
Well, he's on vacation. Just to let you know, he's on holiday.
Oh,
I'm not joking. That's what they told us. He is on holiday. I don't know how long he's been on holiday, but you had all the evidence. You gave it to them, and they closed your case. So they didn't even. What does that mean? They didn't even look at your case.
In fact, and this might blow your mind. They got where they got the video from. From the kid that I told him orchestrated the whole thing.
Wait.
So they went that night. I gave him the name and said, "This is the kid that orchestrated. This is the kid that's been threatening him."
Was the kid involved in beating your son?
Yeah.
So the police went to his house?
They went to his house.
And what did they do?
And they questioned him. And what I was told is that they asked him, and he said he was, I didn't have anything to do with it. And they was like, okay. I'm like, of course he's going to say that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't want to get in trouble.
But that kid
provided the video.
Gave the video to the police.
Yes.
And then what?
Then crickets. I've heard
This
nothing.
is-
I reached out to the officer and I requested a detective. I wanted to have a detective because I said this needs a detective, and they said, well, we don't know. They'll decide that. They literally text. I have a text, and they said, well, we're just going to give the video to the SROs, the school resource officers at all the different high schools, and see if they can identify the kids. And then I said, and I replied back, so basically you're doing nothing, is what I said. And then I never heard back from them until, recently when the media
Started
brought it to
pushing.
their attention.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I got a call from a lieutenant saying that they're going to assign a detective to my case.
All right. Why don't we step aside? We're gonna keep you here because
Yeah.
we got way too much to go over.
Yeah, it's a long story.
Yeah, and I think it goes without saying. We're so sorry for what you're going through, man.
I appreciate that.
My goodness, to reach out to people who are supposed to help you and you got nothing.
Yeah,
You got nothing.
crickets
Nothing from the people you pay our taxes for and look to help. It is.
that we elect.
If you missed the last half hour, you missed a lot. We'll try and get you caught up to speed. We're right in the middle of discussing a lot about the Gilbert Goons with a man named Rick Kuehner. His son was beat up by the Gilbert Goons at an In-N-Out in August of 2023, and Rick's been kind enough to come in studio. And Rick, you spent the last couple of segments really a damning account of the lack of action from your son's school, a damning account from the lack of action from the Gilbert Police Department. So let me take this conversation just another way, because your son was beaten badly, and you decided that for his own safety, he was going to go for now live with his mom in Europe. You had him leave the country. So how does your son feel right now? I mean, what is he going through, and because you know what's in his mind. And I think that's important for everybody to know. He's had to leave his life because a bunch of thugs are out there, jumped in 10-on-1, school did squat, cops did squat. What is your son thinking?
He's humiliated. He's embarrassed. His self-esteem is low. He thinks that he's weak, because he couldn't defend himself. He worries about what people think about him, his schoolmates and stuff. He wakes up often in the middle of the night reliving what happened to him. His mom even told me if she walks up behind him and he doesn't know it, he freaks out. Oh. He stays away from large groups of kids because he just, he's got some PTSD that he's dealing with. He's a strong kid. He's a God-fearing kid, so he has that strength and stuff behind him, which is helping. But, he sees the scar on his lip and he's asking, can he get plastic surgery to remove it because it reminds him of the beating and stuff. So there's a lot of things navigating through his mind and stuff, and as parents, we're doing the best we can to keep things positive and put him on the right trajectory towards life. But at the end of the day, he's had to uproot his whole entire life, for a senseless reason.
And your life has been uprooted too, because as a dad, you saw your son come home bloodied.
Yeah.
And you've had to deal with this every single day. It's bad enough that your kid gets beaten up, but then you get no help. So as a father, what are you going through? Anger?
Yeah. There's a lot of emotions. I think I've been in shock for a while, so I think I'm kind of coming out of it. And it's like I wake up at 2 o'clock every morning. I can't fall back asleep because I just keep thinking things I probably shouldn't think, but
you get in a dark spot, man.
Yeah, it's that I'm very grounded in my faith.
Yeah.
So that keeps me going. But I'm frustrated and I'm pissed off that when I go home I don't get to see my son.
Yeah.
Now, I am so grateful he's alive. I can't imagine what Preston Lord's parents go through. Just trying to even imagine that, But it really hit me because I didn't even know about Preston Lord originally. My son actually called me and said, hey, did you see or hear about Preston Lord? And I'm like, no. And he told me, he goes, Dad, that could have been me.
Yeah.
And when he said that, it just, my gut the reality of that sunk in. And I was like, oh my God, so I can't tell you, I'm all over the place with emotions right now, and I do my best. But I'm very disappointed of the inaction that's taken place, and that I've had to resort to media and news and stuff, because I don't want to be on the news or stuff for something like that. I want to do it because I cured cancer or something. No,
Sure.
not because my son got beat up and I had to send him away.
And talk about it and continue to talk about it.
You talk about the parents. You and I were having a chat earlier. They came over to your house.
Who?
And the goons, they came over to your house. They've come over to other parents' house. They've beaten up adults. Yep. Did you ever fear, and have you feared that something may happen to you?
I'm always looking over my shoulder.
You think you're a target?
I don't know. I don't really, 'cause the thing is, these kids don't know me. They don't know anything about me. I've never met them, but they do know where I live. So I do take precautions, all the time. Am I scared? I'm not scared, honestly.
But you're aware.
I'm aware. I'm very aware. Obviously, as a father, and I'd love one of them to come up to me and
love to get a crack at.
Yeah, I sure would, especially if they're an adult. But I think I'm a better person than that, and I want due process to work and afflict pain in other ways. So through court and
that due
civil
process
action
is
stuff.
important, and that's what I think we need to talk about too. The incompetence, cover up. I mean, there are so many things being heard, and when they don't talk, and when they're not out in front of these things, stuff starts to run wild, and that's how conspiracy theories start. Mm-hmm. That's how this stuff starts, and I think we need to touch on: is this incompetence? Is this cowardice? Is this they didn't put stuff together, or was there some sort of cover-up?
All right, we're being joined by a dad whose son was beaten up by the Gilbert Goons in August of 2023. And his name is Rick Kuehner. He's been nice enough to join us for the hour. And Rick has had to send his son out to Europe to live with his mom to keep him safe. Okay, so you spoke with the parents of Preston Lord. Preston Lord was murdered by the Goons.
Yes.
I can't imagine that sit down. I can't imagine it. What do you do? What do you say?
Yeah, I didn't really know what to say except, to give my condolences. I let them know that I'm there for them. If there's anything that they need, anything I can do through the media or anything, I'll be that voice to help bring some closure to this. But, then I pictured, me being that parent, because it almost happened. So it's hard to put in words how they must feel, or the emotions I felt. All I know is I just wanted to connect with them, give them my love, and give them any help that I can give them.
You're there last night, Chandler getting out in front of it, Gilbert very much late to the game. Is it a cover-up? Is it, is it incompetence? Is it a bit of both? Because I'm sure Preston's family must be just absolutely beyond angry, besides sadness building up. And, of course, what you guys have gone through, and we're finding out many other kids. You're asking the question to these cops is you've given them everything they've needed. Are you just not good at this? Do you not care? Or is there more to it?
Yeah. That's the $1 million question, right?
What's your gut say?
I don't want to believe that it's a cover-up. I don't even want to believe it's incompetence because, we work hard to pay our taxes and we elected these people to be in there.
What's your gut say?
My gut says it's a little bit of both. I don't, I get to your point because they don't come out and speak about it. The police chief never does press conferences, doesn't get out ahead of it at all. You just have to speculate. You have to assume things. And that's where all these speculations and rumors come up. So until, I could be proven otherwise, I have to believe it's a little bit of incompetence, maybe a little bit of cover-up, maybe a little bit of embarrassment because they didn't get out in front of this earlier, so they're just trying to react and and save face, I'm not sure.
Has the mayor of Gilbert, Bridget Peterson, reached out to you?
Never.
Has the police chief in Gilbert, Michael Solberg, reached out to you?
No, he never even responded to my email I sent him.
What do you want to say to them right now? Because I guarantee you they're listening.
Well, I can say the mayor, I know we have an election coming up in August. I'm pretty sure she won't be reelected.
She shouldn't?
She shouldn't
No,
be.
not based on this.
So what do you want to say to her?
I don't even know. I have so many emotions going on right now. I just want to say I'm very disappointed in her inaction, very disappointed in her lack of empathy. She tried to portray that the other night, and it was very fake. Everybody said that. And the police chief, why do you even have an email or something if you're not going to return emails? It took a news reporter to go to the station to actually get somebody to contact me. That's ridiculous. And my son got beaten by 10 kids. And that's what it took for the police that are supposed to serve and protect to come to me? Unacceptable.
So the kids that beat your son, we had 5 arrests the other day. They're involved, right?
4 arrests.
So how does that make you feel? 4 of the 5 arrests the other day.
Yeah.
You're telling us that those 4 were involved in beating your son.
Correct.
Now you're getting some justice.
Correct.
How are you feeling about that?
Well, obviously, it's good to know that action's being taken, but it also frustrates me even more that it took so long when if they would have done their due diligence back in August, they would have had those arrests a long time ago. And God forbid any of those kids are associated with Preston Lord, maybe he'd still be alive today. So I struggle with that.
What do you want people to know about your son who's going through all this stuff on the other side of the world, without his friends, just his entire life has changed?
Yeah, my son's everything to me. He's my only child, and I've raised him my whole life. He's a kind, beautiful soul, he really is. He's even told me, Dad, I don't want you to put yourself in danger. We can forgive these people and move on. That's the kind of person he is. He's like, he just sees the good in everybody. He's maybe a little naive thinking that everybody's good. And I'm glad that he's that way, but he's endured a lot. And, the sad thing about it is he's going to have that the rest of his life. I know through faith and good parents, he'll overcome that, and maybe he can be a mentor to others that go through something like that. Who knows what the plan is, but
16-year-olds shouldn't have to go through that.
No.
Hey, Rick, can't thank you enough for coming in. Real brave of you. I mean,
I appreciate it.
I think a lot of people are listening to you right now, and they're praying for you. And Rick Kuehner's been our guest. His son, unfortunately, was beaten up by the Gilbert Goons in and out.
Thanks for watching Gaydos and Chad. Click to watch more and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.